Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the weekly podcast on the Sicha for Project Likutei Sichas. My name is Shmuley Nachlas. I'm joined with my two Chaverim, Yisrael Wilhelm from Boulder, Colorado, and Rabbi Moshe Grari, who is in the great outdoors, Elul, and preparing himself for the winds of Elul.
Melech
So we are
Pasada.
here, Melech Basada, exactly. And we are here learning, discussing, bringing about the Sicha in Likutei Sichas Chelek Chaf Tes. The Sicha is Shoftim Aleph. And as just a quick intro, Shoftim v'Shoitrim, judges, police officers, law enforcement. It's a big topic today in the world, certainly in North America, that's for sure. But what's interesting is that every decent civilization has to have law and order, and if you don't, you see how that breaks down. It's big trouble. So that we know. But what's the excitement about it in this week's parsha? The Rebbe brings a medrash, this whole story about a pardes and the ben katan, and it's a gift, and it's so special. I mean, it's just law and order. So the judges, what's happening over here. So let's get a little bit of context of the Sicha, a little bit about the medrash, and let's understand really how to unpack this and take it home. So Moshe.
All right.
What do you?
So the Medrash says like this, and it's interesting. The pasuk says "Shoftim v'Shoitrim titen lecha," so it's obviously something unique to Yidden, lecha, to the Jewish people. So the Medrash says like this. The Medrash brings a mashal, a parable of a king that had many children, but one was his favorite child. His youngest was his favorite child, and he also had a lot of things. He owned a lot of things, but he had an orchard that was his favorite possession. And he said, I want to give this orchard, which is my favorite possession, to my child, my favorite child. Similarly, says Reb Levi in the Medrash, that the Yidden, the Jewish people, are Hashem's most precious child, most cherished child. And he said, the Eibusher says, I'm going to give my most precious possession to my most cherished child. What is my most precious possession? Din. Din is what I love more than anything else. And so therefore, Shoftim v'Shoitrim, Hashem gives the mitzvah of din, the mitzvah of judgment, of justice, to the Jewish people. So the Rebbe has a series of questions on this, namely, why the need for a mashal, why the focus on a melech, why the focus on a ben katan. Seemingly, the concept is simple. You have something that you like, you have someone that you like, you give what you like to the person you like. Seemingly, this obviously is a much more complex thing, because we're making a mashal out of it. We're bringing in the melech, we're bringing in the ben katan, the small child. And another question that the Rebbe asks is, what is so favorite to Hashem about din? When obviously din is necessary for the survival of the world, but what is so necessary about din? Those are some of the Rebbe's questions on this medrash. And to answer the question, the Rebbe begins by pointing out that justice is a universal necessity, requirement. It's not something that is unique to Yidden. And therefore it must be, says the Rebbe, that the Rebbe Levi is introducing something deeper or greater than regular justice, regular law and order. And that's why he uses the mashal of a pardes, an orchard, which is sort of more of a luxurious thing than a necessity, because he's talking about the kind of mishpat that is deeper than regular law and order. And to explain that, the Rebbe brings in an idea where the Sanhedrin, for example, weren't just teachers of the law. They actually were the ones that, in the words of the Rambam, were Iker Teresh Bal Peh. They were the mainstay of Teresh Bal Peh. They were the ones that carried over Teresh Bal Peh into the generations to come and into the next generations. They developed and evolved Teresh Bal Peh even before it became necessary or became something that was used as a book for law. And that aspect, the aspect that it's not just the laws of Torah, but it's the essence of Torah, that is the mishpat that we're talking about over here. This is what Hashem gave the Yidden. This is what is his most prized possession. And therefore, when he says Shoftim v'Shoitrim, he's a melech who is giving something that no one else can give. Giving it to his youngest child, to his favorite child, and I didn't yet explain the youngest child part. Maybe we'll get to that in a moment, but he's giving them something that is beyond a necessity, something that is really precious to him. Let's pause here for a second before we get to the Ben Katan. Either one of you could talk about Ben Katan, or we could just unwrap this for a little bit before we get to the Ben Katan.
Yeah, I first of all, I thank you. I always love learning a Sicha where there's a what we call a medrash that no one cares about, and here the Rebbe rips it apart, because this is exactly the point of the Sicha, that every word in Torah and Torah Shabbat Peh is 100% emes and true, and therefore we can't just look at a medrash randomly. So yeah, all these questions are built on Rebbe Levi in the medrash, and it's so beautiful how this becomes the whole, the ultimate expression of love of Hashem. So I happen to have learned the Sicha with someone this morning who grew up struggling with halacha tremendously, and took a break of halacha for over a decade of his life. And when we were learning this Sicha, he really stopped to marvel at how he got it all wrong, and he was looking at Torah Shabbat Peh very much as this whole development of Torah Shabbat Peh is just people being in control and trying to control his life and manage, how much more they can restrict him. And when you learn the way you just explained it, and to develop this beginning part of the Sicha before we get to the Nais Aveyu, is how this is the greatest gift that Hashem gave the Yidden, is Torah Shabbat Peh. The greatest gift that we were given, Torah Shabbat Peh, is not just this oral tradition, which is I know in Chabad is a very common mistake. People are just like, I think it's almost a bridge. Once you pass it, once you cross it, it shifts your way of thinking about the entire thing. It's why there's a medrash, and why every word in medrash is so important, and why the Rebbe takes every word and breaks it up and makes it most relevant in our life. Because the Torah Shabbat Peh is the ultimate expression, giving us this din, the Shoftim and Shoftim, the way the Rebbe explains it. And this Sicha is an expression of the human ability for us, that Hashem gave us, to go and express the truth of Torah, and to be, for the lack of better language, a co-creator or co-author in the book of Torah, which obviously you have to follow the rules and follow the rules of the obviously, but that to me is the step number one before we get to Nais Aveyu, which the Sikh goes a long way further, and there's much more. But this idea that the Shoftim we're talking about over here, and the uniqueness is related to Torah Shabbat Peh, and the uniqueness of Torah Shabbat Peh, that it's Hashem's gift to us, not to just live a black and white life, but to use our minds and to be able to be mechadish chidushim in Torah. That's I'm going to stop here for now.
I guess just to add a little piece to that, just a snippet, I think it's worthwhile to take a little deviation, because when we're talking about judicial systems and civilization, law and order, and being mechadish, in other words, learning into law, if you follow just the news of the day of everything that's going on, certainly with all the things going on in the government today and all the different lawsuits and so many different things. I mean, the Supreme Court and the judicial systems that are working in various different countries also have tremendous learning and tremendous extrapolation and so on. So I think there's just something to clarify here. What is unique about this, and it's a sort of a general difference between the wisdom of Torah, the learning of Torah, the idea of learning Torah, versus the law and order and teachings of the countries in which we live, is that you're talking about a man-made law, whether it's built on a constitution. And again, these are good people who are trying to do the right thing. For the most part, let's just go with that assumption, right? And putting law and order into place for a civilization. And then as modern era develops, you need to learn on that and figure out new scenarios and how do you apply the new situations to, the original written law, and so on and so forth. And in a certain way, you could see similarities in Torah. You didn't have an iPhone back in 2,000 years ago. But what's unique in Torah, which is also what makes this answer a bit novel, is that Torah is from above to below. Torah is God's wisdom. It's not human wisdom. It's not written by humanity. So in which case, it should be something which is really separate from us and really very far from us. And the learning of it is almost by default, you just say we should have nothing to do with it. It's very, very different than the study of American law or Canadian law or and so on. And the one of the novel idea here is that despite the fact that it is Hashem's wisdom, and this is Hashem, the default setting would be to say, what connection do I have to God's wisdom, to infinite wisdom? Where do I play a role in that even? And the gift and the novelty is that obviously according to the rules and according to the klalim and the structures of learning Torah, we have that ability to tap into heavenly wisdom, and learn in it and make it personal and apply it and understand it and so on and so forth. So it's really coming from up here down or coming from down up. It's a very different beginning point of judicial system, which is very different. Anyway, just as a side point.
Something Yisrael said before reminded me a bunch of years ago. There was a young woman that was in the process of becoming frum, and she was spending Shabbos with us, and she was observing our lifestyle. And we were sitting on the couch, and she was asking questions, and we were discussing Yiddishkeit. And she said to me, she said, how do your kids have, or how can they find their own individuality if everything that they have to do in their life is scripted? And, I'm sure you've gotten these types of questions 100 times over, where there's no like answer that you were taught. If someone asks this, you answer this. You're on the spot, and there's no svarim to open up, to look it up. And I'm thinking to myself, like, it's a good question. And then I started going through my kids, like my different kids, of what they do, how they do, what motivates them to do. Even the same two kids doing the same mitzvah, the same minig, and they're doing it differently. And they're doing it, this one davens as soon as they wake up. This one davens a little bit later. This one, and I said to her, I said, first of all, you'll see that each kid does Yiddishkeit in their own way. Not only that, what motivates them? Where is their area of geschmack? Like, some kids enjoy the structure of it. Some kids enjoy the freedom of it, and so on and so forth. And I found, and since we had that conversation, I look at this and I find that while we're all wearing tefillin, but each person, each yid who puts on tefillin, there may be a different aspect that motivates them, a different aspect that excites them, a different aspect that talks to them of it. And the bottom line is, if I have to break it down, there's the doing, and then there's the why am I doing it. And even though the Sicha goes much deeper than any doing, but in the why am I doing it, it's a relationship. And to different people, different parts of the relationship will speak to them. And I believe that the gift is the relationship. The gift of Torah, the gift of that the king gives his child, is not just telling him what to do and what not to do, which is Hashem told the whole world what to do, what not to do in the Sheva Mitzvahs. What Hashem gave Yidden was a relationship with him through Torah.
Which is,
yeah. Go ahead, Israel.
No, I'm going to say this is already. You're stepping into the next idea, answering the part of the Medrash which speaks about Na Yisrael ve'Avei.
I didn't touch Na Yisrael.
No,
I
you're
didn't
saying
get to Na Yisrael.
because
just the concept of the gift.
Right. So, but let me just take that and go to answer the question. The Rebbe says, for those who want to look inside, and I think about Ois Hey, I believe, where this gift is what mishpat, it's seichel, it's mind, right? And yet the gift is related to the simplicity, the most simple childlike relationship between a parent and a child that's not expressed through anything, for sure not logic, but through any expression at all other than absolute pure love. So we can all going to take this in different directions. This is the answer the Sicha gives. So I'm going to just start off with my thing and we'll pass it on. When I learned it this morning, the way I looked at it was there's the phase one of the person who doesn't understand Torah Shabbat Peh at all, and then needs to cross to appreciate the Torah Shabbat Peh. It comes from the Eibusher and the Chiddush and the Nava and the gift that's given. What is the gift at all? But once you get that gift and you start learning and you start thinking that I'm the biggest hotshot and ich can learn and I understand everything, and you start getting all caught up in how brilliant you are and how brilliant Torah is, whatever it is, and then Hashem, the Medrash is reminding us over here that actually the gift is nice of Aveyu. The simplicity of your relationship with Hashem is being expressed. I mean, yeah, of course, it's all great. You understand everything, but it's keep it simple. Literally, keep it simple. Meaning is you're not that. It's not even you. You're not even that great. It's not you. It's just a gift that was given to you. It's like the way it's like the 2-year-old kid. He thinks that he's drawing this big thing, paint on the wall. He was given paint by his parents, and he's giving this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? He's screwing it all up. I mean, from whatever. But it's not the point. The point is either he is or he isn't. In other words, but from his mind, he's building this whole thing. The parent gave him the paint to think. You painted. That's the gift. The gift is that you had the ability. Anyway, we can talk more about this balance, but I'm looking at Shmuley.
Okay, so I want to break this down a little bit because really what we're trying to do is we're trying to explain the excitement, like Meichel said at the beginning, rules that I love. Rules that I love. Those words alone are just oxymoronic. Like, who says words like that, right? Or Yisrael use words like restriction and stuff like that, which is classically what somebody would say when you look at 613 mitzvahs, plus the minhagim and everything. I mean, it's endless. It's endless and endless of things. So what's the perspective here? What's the love? Where's the love in all this? So it comes to the essence. So let's break this down for a second. I want to give an example, to take just a simple example. The way, again, this is my interpretation. This is the way I take this personally. If you don't like it, you're welcome to. So using a sports analogy, there are people who are crazy about sports. We all have people, I'm using people specifically as who we admire, who we look up to, who we would do almost anything to. Let's say for us in our conversation here, the Rebbe. Okay, let's use sports. Let's go over to a different example. Let's say someone's a crazy, crazy hockey fan. I don't know, and imagine they sit down, I don't know, in a waiting room somewhere or something. They're getting a haircut. I don't know what the situation is. And they sit down, and next to them is that hockey player that, oh my goodness, you can't believe it. Who's sitting next to me? They're also there for a haircut or whatever the situation is. And Mr. This hockey player, I wish I thought of a good name of a hockey player, but anyway, turns to you and says, "Could you get me a Coke? The vending machine, in the area. Could you get me a Coke?" You go and get that Coke. You go and buy that soda. You bring it. You don't ask them for pay. You have a story for the rest of your life. You're going to talk to your friends. You know who I met. You know who was sitting next to me. They asked me to get them a Coke. I ran the story there. They were drinking. We were talking, and for the rest of your life, you have a relationship. You have a story because you were wanted, because you were given a task. You were given things to do by this person that you admire so much. So when you talk about rules that I love, that was a rule in a certain way. Why? You had to get up, you had to walk, there was a distance you had to go. I mean, if you want to get technical, there was multiple things. You had to take money out of your pocket, you had to pay, and on and on and on and on and on, all the things that had to happen in order for you to do what you just did. You didn't think about it once. You did it with love. You did it with energy. You did it with excitement. You're going to talk about it for the rest of your life. What happened there? It's also rules. But because you recognize the relationship in that experience, which to you was that hockey player, everything changes. So,
Smolly, could I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I want to use another analogy, very similar to yours, but I want to go a little weiter. I saw a video a while back of a concert. I think his name is Michael Bublé, a singer. And a woman stands up in the middle of the thing and says, "My son knows how to sing." So he brings the 15-year-old boy up onto the stage, thinking there's about to be, a really funny moment. And they start playing his famous song. I don't remember the song. They start playing a song, and he sings the first few words. And the second kid, the kid starts singing and blows his mind of the singer and of the entire crowd, because the kid could sing really well. So now, if you're talking about a guy that has a story to tell, besides the fact that he probably became a singer, is someone who didn't just bring the singer a Coke. He sang with the singer. He became a singer. And using the, I'm saying, I'm just taking your muscle and expanding it a drop. And I'm thinking of the following thing. When someone great tells someone lesser great to do something, he's lifting them up in an incredible way. But then when someone great makes the next person great, that's a whole nother level where it's not just, oh, I did something for so and so. I became so and so, not the singer, but I became a singer. I got to sing on stage with so and so. I think in every relationship, using our children, for example, or any husband, wife, employer, employee, any relationship, okay? Each person has to contribute. If each side is not giving anything to the relationship, then it's not a relationship. One side is doing everything. So you would say, yeah, Hashem says, do the mitzvahs, we do the mitzvahs, and that's our relationship. But then there's something else. Then there's in order to have a relationship, each person has to realize, each side, that I'm nothing without the other person. Not necessarily entirely. In the case of business, this business can't run without my partner. In the case of a husband and a wife, I can't be a couple without the other person. A husband and child. So, and child, I don't know if it's I'm a nothing, but there's a concept of natzchuni banai, where we want our children to learn from us, but we don't want them to be stuck like us. We want them to learn our good stuff, what we can give them. But then we want them to take that and become something incredibly bigger than us, which is like of natzchuni banai. So, if I can, I would like to suggest this relationship concept where on the one hand, we're giving. On the other hand, we're also recognizing that we're nothing without the Eibishter. And the gift the Eibishter gave us is that because we're nothing, because of our bittul, we are able to become infinite.
I think it's beautiful. I want to give you Stroll an opportunity sitting there so quiet, but I think it's really beautiful. I think we're tapping into really where the mishpatim and the Torah is so different. We're not learning it about laws. Torah is, we learn it like the Sicha. We're not learning what to do, but we're learning and we're connecting with something far deeper, and we're becoming something through it, through humility and through recognition. But before I go on, I just want to jump over to Yisrael for a moment.
No, go. I'll say go.
I think just I want to delve onto that parent thing for a second that you were talking about is very much so that when a parent, when you tell your child to do something and they follow instructions, of course, you're a happy parent. You say, please go to the store and buy milk. You come back and buy milk. Everybody's happy. But then there's when they on their own, and certainly as they mature, or sometimes even when a little kid does it and they espouse the values that you so much personify. And I'm not talking about the law and order, because we all know don't steal is don't steal. Of course, no one's talking about that. But each of us right here have a different personality that we espouse and the values and the way we do them. And then when all of a sudden you see your child on their own, espousing those in their own way, in their own personality, but that was the intent. And I brought kids into this world with the biggest blessing. And look, and there's no greater tainug and nachas than that. It's even more than them doing the task of buying milk from the store and bringing it back and going to bed on time or whatever it may be, because you're like, wow, this is even greater. And this is like you were saying before. And this is just like, because I'm trying to come back to the answer. The Rebbe's question is, what's so exciting? Give me an example about an orchard and a king and a small child, and everybody's excited about the laws. I mean, rules. Who loves rules? But it's that relationship that we're talking about. There's something different that's happening here, and that's really at the essence of the expression that the child has the opportunity to do, and for the parent, the child in the mashal, and obviously us for the Eibishter Yisrael.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go back to the Sicha a little bit, and then towards the end. I mean, we really covered everything. Just in language, the Rebbe says Shoftim and Shoiterim is Nasa and Nishma, right? So a Shofet is a judge whose job is to understand the law, to sit behind closed doors, and the police is one who makes sure that everybody follows the rules, which is Nasa. So just a classic idea that Nasa, when you grow up, Nasa and Nishma is that the whole beauty is first do and then to do it. Nobody has to understand, just get it done. And Chassidus, you grow up to this, interprets, and the Rebbe discuss it in the Sicha, that it's actually a process, it's steps. First Nasa, yeah, of course you have Kabbalah, so, but don't stop there. Next step is Nishma. Nishma is not just a side point, it's actually a very critical step in wanting to in growing as a person. Even if you're putting on tefillin your whole life and you're just doing it because whatever, that's great. But you have to have the nishma. You have to appreciate it. It has to become, and that in the language of Chassidus, once that's the purpose, the ultimate purpose of Dira B'Tachtonim, when it's a wholesome experience. So we can stop here talking about that if you want to, but really there's the ultimate where we're going to the goal. So Moshe, do you want to say a few words about this before we go to the end, or no?
I spoke a lot.
Okay, so I'll just say so, and then where we're going, you have the Nasa, the Nishma. So it seems like that's beautiful. The Rebbe ends Dir B'Tachtonim is that it's a wholesome experience. It's a whole thing, but that's not really what it is, and that's really going back to the Na Yisrael Ve'aveh that you were so beautifully speaking about. The ultimate recognition, once you understand everything, once you have the full Nishma experience, you fully understand it, is to be an Ish Pashut. Literally to be like the simple Jew who's never had anything who doesn't understand anything. So you're being asked to do two opposite things, but that's the ultimate real experience. When you're feeling that you a little resentful that the rules and everything, appreciate that it comes from the Eibishter and really appreciate where it comes from. And when you're in the moment where you appreciate it, don't just say, okay, I appreciate it. No, fully push yourself to really fully appreciate it. And then when you fully, really appreciate it, never forget where you started and become that simple person, like the Baal Shem Tov, like the whole idea of the Baal Shem Tov said, the Sicha, the Baal Shem Tov, that ultimately you want to see Hashem, if you want to see the ultimate expression of the pshittus of God, look at it, Ish Pashut. So it's like, where do I want to be stuck? And the answer is nowhere, never be stuck. Wherever you're holding that day, wherever you wake up that morning, and in the morning that life's working, and life's clicking, and life makes sense, and the nishma is good, no problem. Push yourself to be an ish pashut. Push yourself to realize the atzmos. And when you are in a place that it makes no, you know what I mean? Like anyway, the point is that any position you're in this sicha, you're being pushed to become the other person, to appreciate the other side. I find it very beautiful and very personal. It's a very practical avodah in our life to never be satisfied with where we're holding and always go one step above, one step beyond.
I think as we're moving along to wrap it up, I want to turn it over to Moshe for your takeaway and final words of inspiration.
Okay.
The field.
I'm having a really hard time keeping it short today. I'll conclude with the following. One of the first sichas that we podcasted on was B'ni B'chayri Yisrael and Kinari Yisrael Ve'aveyu, or another expression of Yidden being a child, the contrast between the older, accomplished child and the younger, more innocent, not yet developed child, and the different relationships that those two express. And as we were talking, specifically as Yisrael was talking, I thought of something, and this will be my concluding remarks. We had a while back a sicha, Yisrei Mishpatim, where there's Kabbalas oil is the entry point. I do it because I'm told to do. Then comes Mishpatim. Mishpatim, as in Parshas Mishpatim, the laws, civil laws, things that make sense. At the end of Mishpatim comes Nasa v'Nishma, which in the context of that sicha is a new bittul. But you can't compare the two bittles. The first is one of emptiness. I have nothing. I'm just new to the program. So I follow the rules because otherwise, what am I going to do? And then comes Mishpatim. I understand. Things make sense to me. Now I think I understand it. I've made it. To be able to, on top of that, to reach a point and say, as much as I've accomplished, I'm still in my relationship with Hashem. There's a bittul, there's a Kabbalas oil, there is something on top of my understanding that reminds me and makes sure to keep me in my place, that I'm still just a small piece in a much bigger picture. That's the ultimate bittul. because it's not a bittul that's coming from a place of nothing. It's coming from everything, and yet I'm in a state of bittul. And that's the ben cotton that we're talking about, the mishpat at the end of the Sicha. And that's the gift that the Eibishter gave us. The gift that the Eibishter gave us is that we could become, if you want to use Lakewood language, gedolim b'Torah. If you want to use a different language, we can have this relationship with the Eibishter, where the Eibishter is turning to us and saying, Torah is yours. Do with it as you please. And yet the reason he's doing so is because of our own bittul. Because with the whole Torah that he gave us, and with everything that we've accomplished, we still still in comparison to the Eibishter, we're in a state of bittul. With everything that we know and everything that we've done, we remain the Eibishter's ben katan. And that is the dichotomy of the relationship. On the one hand, it's natzchuni banai. On the one hand, we're growing and we're building. And on the other hand, I will forever be the Eibishter's youngest favorite child.
So if I can end that off in my language, in the meditation, when you hear the shofar, if you enter in the end of the Sicha, it's literally what you said, just with the shofar. When you're listening to the shofar is two opposite things. On the one hand, the point of a shofar is shipur ma'asechem, is to become a better person, and you have to just become a mensch, and you have to grow, and you have to become better than a better person in every aspect of your life, and that's the idea of tshuva on the simple level, just to grow as a person. But then, as you grow, you feel good about yourself, obviously. You know what I'm saying? And that's the natural way of life, is that, the more you understand, the more you grow, the more that better healthy of a person you become, the more confident you get in yourself. On the other hand, to always remember, no matter what, that the shofar, in the language of the Sicha, the Baal Shem Tov, you can hear 1,000 kids crying, but you'll always recognize your kids cry. Always. Your kids cry will always be different. It's not a language thing. It's not how great you are and how amazing you are. You blowing the shofar, and Hashem connects to you. It's as simple as that. You're connected in essence to Hashem, and that's going to be with you regardless of how much you have grown that day or haven't grown that day. It's the simple connection. It's the ish pashut. It's the kol pashut. It's the simple voice that you always carry no matter what, and the simple, beautiful relationship you have with Hashem. And that's just a simple practical takeaway as we start to listen to shofar in the next few weeks.
I'll finish off with one just final thought, a little different than the what you both were just saying, even though it's all beautiful. And that is just reflecting back to the privilege of the love of the rules. I keep circling back to that. But Moshe, you said something very interesting about that concert. There was a beautiful example. I really love that. And I think that a takeaway that everybody listening could just think for a moment is that we were gifted with the beauty of Torah. It's unbelievable. And to unpack that, it just in so many ways, each in their own way, and everybody knows that. And essentially what happened there is Hashem brought us up on the stage and gave us a voice. And the question to you, and the question to me, is who am I bringing up on my stage, and who am I giving a voice to? Who could I give a step up to? How could I give someone, because everybody needs a step up, everybody needs a break, everybody needs a little bit of help, somebody to pick them up and put them on the stage. So I think it's just a good thought for us to practicalize and learn from what's been done for us, and how we could implement that in our day-to-day. And there's certainly ways, maybe not always at the massive concert. There might be different opportunities, but every day there's an opportunity to bring someone up on stage and give them an opportunity to feel heard. So l'chaim to that.
Beautiful.
Thank you all, and we'll see you very soon.